administration, of course, but also Congress is having to really grapple with, as there's no end in sight to some of these shutdown negotiations.
Elena Train, live at the White House. Thank you so much. We're on the eve of a big political day. Tomorrow, some key off-year elections are set to give us a new gauge on how Americans are feeling. A new CNN poll, though, gives us a sneak peek, and the data finds that President Trump's approval rating has now dropped to 37%, his lowest this term.
Democrats also showing a very early advantage when it comes to motivation. 67% of Dem and Dem-leaning Americans say they're extremely motivated to vote in the next election, compared to 46% for Republicans. With us now is pollster and communications strategist Frank Luntz. All right, Frank, how much of tomorrow's election is going to be about Donald Trump and how people feel about the first 9 months of his second term?
Well, you're going to decide that. The media is going to decide that. I don't believe many voters are going to be casting their votes based on what they've seen. These are primarily local races, governor's races, or a mayoral race. And the one I want to focus on, because I do believe that Republicans are going to have a bad day tomorrow. But the one that matters the most for the country is the vote in California, whether or not they're going to change the laws for redistricting. And that could mean as much as a 5-seat Democratic gain, 5-seat Republican loss, if Gavin Newsom is successful in his ballot initiative. At this point, I think he will be. And that's going to send shockwaves across the country as people begin to look at what's going to happen a year from now. I do believe Democrats win the governorship in New Jersey and Virginia. A socialist is going to be elected mayor of New York. But the one that I'm going to be watching most carefully is California.
Frank, on that New York race, we've spoken to a number of political experts that make the clear argument that New York City is a bit of an anomaly when it comes to elections and the kinds of candidates that will be elected there. I do wonder, though, what you make of an argument from comedian Andrew Schultz, who suggests that Zohran Mamdani has taken a page out of Donald Trump's book. He suggests that they're both rich kids taking on the problems of the working class, that they were both sort of rejected and then campaigned against by their own party, but saw a boost in support because of that, because they're both against the status quo. And they also take well to new media. First, it was Trump on Twitter or X about a decade ago, Mamdani on TikTok and Instagram. Do you see that as a playbook that other Democrats can learn from?
It's a playbook that every candidate can learn from. And the focus of that campaign has been affordability since day one. And make no mistake, that was the number one issue in 2024. It's still the number one issue in 2025. And unless inflation comes down and gets truly under control, because it has reduced in some areas. And by the way, it's not inflation, it's affordability. Can I have the housing I want, the health care I need, and the food and fuel I deserve? That's the core message. And candidates that have been focused on affordability tend to be doing better right now. And that's exactly what he's done. It has not been a campaign about whether or not he's a socialist, whether or not he supports more mainstream issues. He's offering New Yorkers the chance to pay less, and it's a very expensive city, and they like that, and they appreciate it, and he's scoring points that way, and I do believe that in the end he will be successful.
How do you think this could affect the outcome tomorrow, might affect the shutdown? I mean, two big things that are happening with lots of political dynamics. It's just a crucial time as people are suffering, Frank. How do you think that could affect things?
You're correct. And this is the breaking point. When you don't pay our men and women in uniform, when they have to go without their weekly paychecks, and you start to have people who cannot afford their food and fuel, then it starts to have an impact. And then people start to say, why is this happening? I believe that the shutdown is politically motivated. I believe that if they wanted to, they could find common ground, but they choose not to. And that has hurt the Republican brand, the Republican reputation. Their numbers are down, as you point out in your own polling of Donald Trump. But the numbers that have fallen the worst, to my surprise, are the Democrats. Everyone is being hurt by this. Everyone's credibility and respect. And looking at the government, and the public just looks at this and says, why? Why can't you find some agreement? Why can't you give Why can't you cooperate? And that's going to be a very big question Wednesday and Thursday when this election is over. It is hurting the Republicans, but it seems to be hurting the Democrats even more.
There are a lot of variables in place that make the 2026 midterms more difficult than usual to predict. I mean, you sort of look at history. The incumbent party always sees losses during midterms. But then you have the issue that you brought up, Frank, with redistricting, what Texas does, what California is apparently set to do, what other states may wind up doing. New CNN polling finds that Democrats have a 5-point advantage if the midterms were held today. You see it there on your screen. How do you see all of this playing out going into next year?
I think I'm going to be direct with you. The idea of changing the rules midway is abhorrent. That these districts, the lines are drawn and they're supposed to sit for 10 years. And the fact that Republicans have changed the rules in Texas, they've changed them in Ohio, they changed them in North Carolina. Democrats are trying to do the same. They filed lawsuits in New York. They're trying to win in California. It's going to undermine the faith and trust that we have in democracy. And I think it's one of the worst things that could be happening right now. So you've got a government shutdown, you've got inflation, affordability, and now you have redistricting. And I look at this objectively as someone who measures public opinion, and it is frightening how low these institutions, their credibility, how much they've fallen, and how the lack of belief and faith and trust in our democracy seems to be hitting an all-time low. And I am concerned. And I'm hoping that the people who engage in this process pay attention, because we're reaching a breaking point, and it's coming. And after that breaking point, who knows? Who can predict what happens when the public finally says, to hell with you all? And that's where we're heading right now.
Yikes.
Yeah, they're starting to say that. Look at that poll. It's ticking towards the to hell with you all percentage, I think. Frank Luntz, thank you so much for being with us. Always great to have you. And still to come, the shutdown is causing some long lines, really long lines, hours long, flight delays as well at some of the country's biggest airports, and officials say it's only going to get worse.
Plus, the Trump administration says it will use